them to, no, I was right. Or, do mind if you do, or whatever. We're coming back with a brand new series that is a reflection on episodes we've done in the past. 8 years ago, Eleanor Lewis, Alex Zalben, you guys tried to convince me to like Harry Potter.
Did it work?
Well, not really. I developed an appreciation for the fandom. But times have changed a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
You guys still super into Harry Potter?
So can I pull back the curtain a little bit? Is
Please
that all right?
do.
So you sent a bunch of emails out because you had reposted these old episodes on YouTube, and I think at the same time I got 2 emails. The first one I opened was like, "Great news! Your episode on Walking Dead is reposted." I was like, "Oh, cool! Well, maybe I'll listen to that again." And then the next one was, "Great news! Your episode on Harry Potter." And I recoiled so hard, and I was like, how do I respond to this? How do I get back in a polite way to tell Aaron, please take this down, or whatever you want to do?
The email starts with, "Great news."
Yes, and then in the intervening time, while I was trying to figure out how to respond to this, you sent an email being like, can we retract this? And literally anyway.
And the answer is yes. It's very easy. You just go to Aaron's apartment and make him set up his podcast shit.
Yeah, it's, I listened to the whole episode again.
Which I didn't do. I didn't listen to any of it because I didn't feel like it.
Yeah,
so.
that's fair. I re-listened to it.
I trust you guys.
I don't think there's a ton to walk back, but the couple of points that we do need to walk back, boy, do we need to walk them back.
Let's walk them back.
Yeah, the thing that I found really interesting beyond the whole JK Rowling of it all that I assume we'll get to in a second, listening to the podcast again, is how in the intervening time the amount of information about Harry Potter I have forcibly thrust out of my brain so I just don't have to think about it all the time. And there were really good conversations. I thought all of the information that you were throwing out about fandom and the books and everything was awesome, and I loved generally hearing about it again, and then immediately felt bad all over again. So.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, thank you. I accept any and all compliments in whatever context. So that's good.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we need to walk back and start with that immediately was we did spend a good 5 minutes going like, look, whether you like Harry Potter or not, we can all agree JK Rowling is a great person.
Oops.
Uh-oh! Time has really shown us our ass on that one, huh?
Yeah. To be fair, she didn't get into that until a couple of years after we recorded the episode.
We didn't realize all of the hate in her heart.
Yeah, but she didn't realize that at the time either, I think, because...
So we break even.
or was just not open about it. I mean, immediately after the episode, like, I did a bunch of panic research just to get a better sense of the timeline and where we were, and I had kind of forgotten, like, I knew that she has these horrific, horrendous, unredeemable anti-trans views now. I remember the essay that she put up in 2020, I don't remember the headline, but it was like, "Women are women," or something, and everybody just blew a gasket, lost their minds over that, but I had forgotten that it, like, just sort of slowly creeped up online, and it started with, I took a bunch of notes because
This is how you could, you're like part of the media landscape, and I am just like an improviser who happened to stumble into a podcast taping. It's like, look at all of your notes. You re-listened to the thing.
Well, I feel like I'm in the middle.
You can scroll on this thing. Like, I'm looking at the size of the scroll bar is like the size of a
Damn,
grain
you're still
of
scrolling.
Wow.
Yeah, there's
a
lot. But the thing that I'd forgotten about, so there was this article, a lot of places have done this, but the one that I found pretty comprehensive was on The Week, that in 2018 she liked an anti-trans tweet, and the excuse when people were like, "Hey, why did you like that? What's going on?" Her publicist is like, "She's an old lady and has tricky fingers and she doesn't know how to use stuff. Oopsie daisy."
She probably meant to click delete.
Yeah, and then 2019 she followed an anti-trans person and was like, "Oh, I'm just interested in their ideas." And then 2020 was like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm like crazy anti-trans, and that's what I'm going to wreck my entire reputation on."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about that, too, is that she follows the same sort of path of, like, radicalization that a lot of people do, where she's looking for something, and she finds it in a place that leads her down a rabbit hole that gets her really emotionally invested in something that is really fucked up.
Starts with just asking questions.
And that's
so
why. So
never ask questions.
I never asked a question.
Never do my own research.
No, she's gotten to a place that's very dark.
Yeah, and we didn't really notice at the time because the episode we did came out 8 years ago. Math is not my strong suit, so that was 2017.
It was either 2016 or 2017.
Yeah,
I think.
I want to say that we recorded the episode. It was either before Fantastic Beasts came out, or
I believe it was before.
Or before I'd seen it.
So we were talking about Fantastic Beasts before we started taping, and I wanted to throw something out to both of you. I don't know why I'm looking specifically at you and Eleanor, like defend Fantastic Beasts, but do you think there is a correlation between Fantastic Beasts coming out, not doing great, her being the sole writer on it, and her slow descent into anti-trans hatred? I don't know. That's probably drawing like A plus C equals Q.
I don't know. These people with their broken brains and hearts tend to be money fueled. So I don't think there's enough to rule out that.
She's still worth like at least $1 billion or something like that. So she is rich and continuing to be rich, and I think part of the problem, this isn't anything new for anybody, but part of the problem is she is still consistently making money off of the Harry Potter franchise to this day as we are speaking, and enough people, and I think about this way too much, going back to, we had a long conversation, and a lot of what I was pushing you on was I love Harry Potter Land at the Universal theme parks, and I was really enchanted by them. They are direct fuel for JK Rowling, which fuels her anti-trans groups, and that sucks. But I bring this up because it is very easy to go to Harry Potter Land and be like, sure, I know in theory some of this money goes towards her, but really how much can it be? I'm just going to get one butterbeer while I'm here. But if 1 million people a year do that, which they do, it starts to add up into money in her pockets. And
do we know how much kickback she gets from
that? So I'm going to throw out two things at you.
I love asking you questions because you've already looked up the answers and pretty relevant.
He has a heading here called How Universal Pays JK Rowling.
Yeah, so this is I was worried about this, and I wanted to know how much this actually broke down. I'm not going to throw out the exact figures because I did not write them down, but there's a great article at OrlandoParkStop.com where they actually looked into the Universal contracts between Warner Brothers and Universal Studios to try to figure it out. And one thing that holds them up a little bit is some of the specific numbers are redacted or not in there. But the basic fact that I think you need to take away if you're planning on going to Universal or ever thought about it is the park ticket admission does not go to JK Rowling. It doesn't go to Warner Brothers. So if you really want to push it, if you're walking around and you happen to end up in Harry Potter Land and you happen to ride one of the rides, she's not getting any money off of that. But any Harry Potter merchandise you buy, either in the Harry Potter Land sections or in any of the other gift shops, that money goes to Warner Brothers, and a cut of that goes to JK Rowling. The little asterisk there is, and they're very open about this in the article, the contracts, I believe, go up to 2019. This is pre whatever the Ministry of Magic land that they opened in Epic Universe. So the contracts may have been rejiggered at some point, but Warner Brothers seems to have no compunctions about continuing to pay J.K. Rowling money.
Of course not.
They were very open. This was, I think, David Zaslav talked about how nothing was affected with the Harry Potter game that came out, where that made huge amount of money. That the sales on the Harry Potter game, that very specifically, I saw so many people be online be like, it's $60 for a game. Come on, how much anti-trans hatred am I feeling? I just want to play the game. Leave me alone.
Yeah, but that adds up.
That adds up. And then the other thing that came off of that is they decided to go forward with the HBO Harry Potter show because the video game did so well. And that has her as an executive producer. They've specifically said from the HBO end that J.K. Rowling, they're like, whatever, that's just an online conversation. We're not worried about that. So all of this stuff just adds up, and it specifically goes into her pockets to fuel anti-trans hatred.
Yeah.
That's all. So that's not a specific number to get back to your initial question, but every little bit you're buying in the parks, every Harry Potter video game, every piece of merchandise, it goes towards her and her bank account.
Now, we had, in the episode we did, we talked a lot about, how at the time, all the Harry Potter video games were bad. But then this big one comes out, the Hogwarts University
When we
Online.
talked about that, did I get in the paint for Quidditch World Cup?
Not in the paint, but definitely near the paint.
Okay, well, because that would be appropriate, because that game slaps.
So, I've been curious about playing that game. Obviously, I have not purchased it, but I do have PlayStation Plus, and that game is free on there. I've yet to download it. Does anybody know if I download that for free and then play it for free, does that line her pockets?
I don't specifically know, but knowing about how streaming works, if you're watching something on Netflix, even though you're not paying for it, you're paying for the Netflix.
They still get a cut.
Yeah, you get a residual.
All right, then my life does not need this game.
Right.
And also, I know the spoilers in it. One thing that we did overlook 8 years ago is that, there's a lot of not so subtly coded racism throughout Harry Potter. What with, the little gremlin people being allegories for Jews with names like Schmoigel, Saperstein
What are you
and shit.
talking about, Aaron? They're just hook-nosed little monsters that control all of the money in the world.
And I just want to add, Schmoigel Saperstein was the first time I saw myself on screen. You're right, though. I mean, I think...
Yeah, who can forget that beautiful JK Rowling character, short-ass soft Butch, which is the first time I ever really thought I was reflected in a fictional character.
I think, this isn't even the trans thing, but there's also, I think, been this view of JK Rowling from the time we taped it to after she just kept putting out more and more information, like, oh, this is canonical information. I think this came out afterwards. There was this whole thing. She was like, yeah, back in the day, wizards...
They shit themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, they just shit
What?
Yeah. Honestly, this kind of... To go back to your previous question about,
No, I want to stay on this!
No, it's the same... This is the same answer. To go back to your previous question about, is J.K. Rowling's, meteoric rise to the forefront of, anti-trans activism related to the fact that, her movie sucked? And I think maybe indirectly in that, part of what she needs to do now as the custodian of this, extremely popular piece of media that she needs to keep relevant so that she can continue making money off of it and, continue sort of expanding the franchise of what she's made, is to sort of just, keep, she has to tap the beach ball or whatever, keep it in the air, right? So she has to release more stuff in what is now the Wizarding World, which is, distinct from Harry Potter, I think, as an IP.
Yeah, again, I think this was around the same time we were taping, maybe right before, maybe after, but they changed from, HarryPotter.com to WizardingWorld.com.
Yeah. So it's a broader thing, but part of that is that she has to continue creating interest in the world, the wider world and the lore of it. And one of the wonderful things about the Harry Potter books, which I like the books, is that they're nonsensical. They don't try to make sense within the world. They never figure out what magic is made out of, or create any type of hard and fast logic for how anything works. It's just whimsical. So when she's tasked with having to create a more grown-up and consistent lore for the stuff around her, she ends up with the Fantastic Beasts movies, which I would love to get into more, and these little lore drops on the WizardingWorld.com, such as this one, where she revealed that in the past, and this is really important Harry Potter world lore that you need to understand some of the big events that go on, is that wizards used to just shit their pants where they stood and then disapparate the turds from the floor, I guess, or their underwear, or whatever they had going on, and that they only have bathrooms because Muggle-born witches and wizards were used to that.
I have 1 to 12 follow-up questions. So, and I don't know why this is my first one. When they shat their pants and then used a magic spell to evaporate it, did that also clean up any stains? Or was there residue left? Or is every, poop particle now just fresh scent?
I think the idea was that it was all gone, but the thing that was so crazy to me when she said that is sorry, animals don't do that. Animals will dig a hole and then bury their poop or whatever.
Pretty much anything that is alive has a really strong impulse to not have its shit near it ever.
It's called shame, and as we know, JK Rowling has none, which is why she'd just have her wizards shit their pants. I need to know what the magic word is that makes your poop go away.
Oh, there was a magic word. Do you know what it is?
Quilted Northern.
Alex, I'm not going to have you do instant research on this episode.
Sure.
This I need to know right now. What is the magic word to make your poop go away?
Right, but the thing about this is, first of all, it's why would you ever share this information with anybody?
Mm-hmm.
And, people on Twitter at the time were rightfully well, what about children? What about an 8-year-old? Does an 8-year-old have to be Father, I've shit myself, please vanish my turds?
Babies!
The spell is Evanesco.
Oh, I love that band.
Yeah.
Oh, it all ties back to My Immortal, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Doesn't it?
Ooh.
I learned a thing or two from y'all 8 years ago.
Oh my god. So the point, the reason I brought that up though, is she just keeps adding things into the lore over and over and throwing it out, and exactly what you're saying, a lot of that is pushing up the beach ball. But there was this turn, I think, in the conversation, even before the trans stuff, where it's maybe you could stop talking about this a little bit.
Tap out, girl.
Because it is something where it's in many ways, the more that you add to it, the worse that it gets. I know that you're a fan of the Universal, the parks. I've never been to Disney World or Universal or anything. That's not my scene really. But the thing that strikes me about the Universal, not necessarily the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, but the expansions of Diagon Alley and the Ministry thing, is the extent to which it's basically just a shopping mall, and the extent to which the stuff in the Fantastic Beasts series exists to be sold as plushies.
Capitalism.
And it's very naked in that way. It's it's extremely apparent that that's part of why they chose Fantastic Beasts as the thing that they were gonna do next, because the series itself is so insane. The first movie is about a neurodivergent zookeeper running around, getting into...
just say Pokemon trainer.
Getting into little adventures, and then the third movie is about trying to fight Hitler.
What?
Wizard Hitler. And,
Is that Grimble?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, whatever. And,
Nailed it.
Perfect. And this is so far removed from the scope of just a silly little fellow who runs around doing fart noises at a magical hippo to get it to go in his suitcase. Is the only reason that you would have ever been we want to tell the story about taking down Wizard Hitler, what are we going to frame it as? How about this zookeeper guy? Is if you wanted to sell a bunch of stuffed animals, basically. And that is just so insanely cynical and transparent. And I think that kind of this goes back to what you're saying about what the business model is of Harry Potter right now. It's not necessarily making money directly on things like park sales, book sales. It's on keeping the IP alive so that new stuff gets greenlit.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only reason for doing the HBO show, which is one of the more insane entertainment things I think I've ever seen.
I think that this is more your territory than mine.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. all I know about the HBO show is that it is a continuation of the main Harry Potter story.
No.
I know nothing about this.
It is a remake. It is.
They're restarting it all.
Yes. So the idea that they have said with the HBO Harry Potter show is, hey, we're going to do a more faithful retelling of Harry Potter over the course of 10 seasons. I'll remind you, 7 books.
Weren't the movies faithful?
One of the issues with the movies is they were too faithful to the books, I would argue. Because, like, one of the best movies is the third movie, the Alfonso Cuarón one, which took at least some visual leaps and pushed it in some way and tried to treat it as like a
That's the Tri-Wizard Tournament one?
No, it's the time travel one.
Okay, I didn't do that one.
No, you didn't 8 years ago either. But that's a good movie.
And time proved me right.
But, like, the first movie is pretty much almost beat for beat. And what everybody has pointed out is, like, what else are you going to add in there? The point when Hermione tries to free the goblin slaves and everybody tells her she's stupid for doing that and she loses and she's convinced, like, well, yeah, let's keep... Oh, the house elves, excuse me. Let's keep the house elves under slavery. Or any of the other, like, weirdly racist things that are going on.
I hope that they keep the part at the very end where... Dolores Umbridge is kidnapped and sexually assaulted by a bunch of centaurs.
Yeah, that would be great. You're going to have to wait 10 years.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the part where instead of Dobby being given the sock for his freedom, he instead gives the sock up to the state and then goes to college on the mainland.
Yeah. The other thing that's crazy about it from a TV perspective versus a movie perspective is, for the most part in Harry Potter books, nothing happens. Like, for most of the middle of those books, like, they have an inciting incident where they get to Hogwarts, and then they're at Hogwarts, they hear about something weird for Hogwarts, and then there's, like, depending on the length of the book, anywhere from 50 to 300 pages where they're like, tough mystery going on. Time to go to class. And then right at the end, they sort of wrap everything up. So what are you going to do for 8, 9, 10 episode season where the middle episodes nothing is happening? Anyway, it drives me crazy. So just to, like, repeat it, their idea that they profess, and again, I don't know how this blocks out because they've said 10 seasons but 7 books, is each season
Aren't these kids going to be like 40 by the time they finish?
Yeah. They're trying to turn them around quickly. They are the age they're supposed to be in the books right now, or around about. They're a little older. I think they're like 12 to 14 is the kids that they cast.
Boy, yeah, they're going to be in between seasons. Boy, are they going to look different.
Yep. But they're trying to turn them around really quickly. They've recast all the roles. Season 1 will be the first book. Season 2 will be the second book, etc., etc. And it's just like
10 seasons.
10 seasons. And again, I don't know how, but I think the general theory is that this is getting into a part of the business that I don't know anything about or don't know enough about, but the popular theory is that David Zaslav, who runs Warner Brothers Discovery right now, is going to sell the company. So he has a 10-year plan for DC, and he has a 10-year plan for Harry Potter that may or may not ever be finished, but you get about 2 to 3 years in there that builds up the value of the company so you can sell it for more money at that point, and then the next company can either finish that stuff or not.
Interesting.
Who's he going to sell it to?
I don't know. Not me. I don't have that kind of money.
I mean, it's the same, like, 8 or 9 guys passing these businesses around.
Yeah.
Like, generating value off the sale.
But whatever it is, like, I think it ties back to what you were saying, Eleanor, in terms of it just being, like, nakedly, transparently...
It's the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's in it for the business. But I think that's also a thing of, like...
And to kick out the main stars who have spoken out against her.
Well,
yeah.
that's... Oh, sorry.
That's neither here nor there for me. I mean, like, that's... They can't unring the bell of being involved, which is, like, it's not like a crime on their part or anything. And it's like, I think the impulse to ask these people to, like, disavow their association with her is very natural, but ultimately, like, not necessarily meaningful. Because basically, JK Rowling was recruited to do something. She didn't invent this project to basically exclude trans people, especially trans women, from public life. Like, that's the goal. That's that's what they want, and it's what they're succeeding in doing, and it sucks. It's like evil. But she didn't invent this. She was recruited. She entered a pipeline that a lot of people enter. She just happens to be a really high-value target for them because she has this massive reach and a shitload of money.
And she's a very strong IP, yeah.
Yeah, and she has this thing that means that it's like sort of impossible to dislodge her from the public eye because what she made is like great and beloved and has these economic like legs sort of like running under the Baba Yaga house of the whole thing that just will never be lopped off.
And have invaded every single facet of entertainment.
Yeah, and the thing of like whether or not Daniel Radcliffe agrees with her or not is so immaterial because his like turning on her only serves to push her deeper into the like well of like this very radical sort of like project, and the people who are likely to side with her because they're like, oh, she's being persecuted, she's got the wrong like she did wrong thing and now the woke left are like mobbing her, right? Is like they will see that and it only confirms what they think.
Right.
And it's part of why she's such a valuable asset for this project. Yeah, it sucks.
I do think, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, but just in the very specific case of Daniel Radcliffe, I think the further step there that he took, which he became the face of the Trevor Project and was their ad man and pushing that out there and pushing that information, I think that's what you got to do across the board with anything negative. So yeah, Daniel Radcliffe, I think, like has done it the right way. Versus one of the other things that I wrote down here was Nick Frost took a lot of heat online the other day. He has been cast as Hagrid in the HBO show, and of course he got asked about it. I will say, there was, I think it was Variety put up this picture like Nick Frost breaks with JK Rowling on trans views or something. But the split that they had as the header picture was Nick Frost and Hagrid, so it looked like Nick Frost and Hagrid were having a spat. It's like, oh, I hope they get together and figure this out. Anyway, his quote, though, was like, she's allowed her opinion and I'm allowed mine. They just don't align in any way, shape, or form. And then he was asked, does he worry the debate might overshadow the series? And he said, I don't know, but maybe it shouldn't blow over. We shouldn't just hope it will go away because it makes it easier. Maybe we should educate ourselves. And I think this ties very well into what you're saying. Is like, he's not wrong about any of this, but the pushback is like, well, you're still doing the show.
Yeah.
Anything that you do is still giving her money.
And you're also, look, if you were an unnamed actor, I understand you get your breaks where you can. You're Nick Frost. You don't need this.
But this is, I'm going to contradict and like play devil's advocate. Does he? Like, we don't know financially where he's at right
Fair
now.
Point.
It's a really tricky thing from their perspective, but I do think from the perspective of I don't deal with Nick Frost's finances in any way, I can very easily be like,
right. Well, I do deal with Nick Frost's finances, and I actually have extensive notes.
Dox him.
Yeah. There was one other, not to keep reading off quotes from people, but all of this stuff came up recently, and I thought it was interesting, was Stephen Fry, on the other hand, who narrated the Harry Potter books and has been friends with JK Rowling for a really long time. He did get big ups from people because he apparently tried to talk to her and was like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Why are you pushing so hard on this? And he went on a podcast that I should have written down the name of, but The Telegraph reported on it. And he said, she has been radicalized, I fear, and it may be she has been radicalized by TERFs, exactly like you're saying, but also by the vitriol that is thrown at her and is unhelpful and only hardens her and will only continue to harden her, I am afraid. I'm not saying that she not be called out when she says things that are really cruel, wrong, and mocking. She seems to be a lost cause for us. And the quote that everybody picked up was the lost cause, which I think is true. So then to tie it back to what we're talking about from our perspective, sitting on a couch in Brooklyn, what do you do as a fan with that? Is the question, what do you do with your fandom going forward? And I think, at least for me, the answer is almost the same as what we said before, is I respect the culture of people who make their own crafts around Harry Potter and write their fanfic and all those things. But in terms of paying for any official merch, for going to Harry Potter Land and buying that butterbeer, or watching the HBO show or anything like that, like, skip it.
Can I make a secondary argument? Like, I believe all of that is, like, very cogently said and really good. A secondary argument for not buying the merch is that it's all dog shit.
Yeah.
It's some of the most aesthetically fucked up stuff that I've ever seen in my life. Like, the specific aesthetic that they sort of glommed onto for all of the sort of mass-produced merchandise that you can buy at all of these stores is like, you know, it's the fourth movie. It's all from Goblet of Fire, where everything looks like it's like an American middle school. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like the quaint little hand-knitted jerseys that you get in like 5 and 6. It's not the little homespun stuff from 3. It's not the book-accurate robes from 1. It's the dog shit from 4. And it just looks bad, it looks cheap, and it is. So, just avoid. Just don't get it because it's bad on the merits.
I also, like, and again, I'm not as up on the Harry Potter stuff, but anytime I've walked through a toy section and seen Harry Potter stuff, everything looks wet. Like, it like the aesthetic seems to be wood and wet.
Interesting take. I hadn't considered the wetness angle.
Yeah. I'll have to look more carefully.
Yeah, I can't speak on that. Who's the guy on the Joe Rogan podcast? Can you, like, pull up the wetness? We gotta look.
Jamie?
Jamie, yeah. Can we pull that up? Can we pull up the...
It hurts that I know that.
Can we pull up the wet Harry Potter stuff, please?
I would recommend, not to keep getting back to the fan stuff, but, like, I immediately thought about, I think it's in Mystic, Connecticut, because we went on a family vacation there, and they have some sort of, like, enormous outdoor mall. If I'm getting this location wrong, I'm sorry, but at the enormous outdoor mall, which is like very quaint, and it was almost like a theme park type outdoor mall, they had some place that was, again, I'm not remembering the name, I'll look it up in a second when I stop talking, but it was like the Feisty Cauldron or whatever, and it was clearly Harry Potter inspired.
Yeah.
And they sold the books and they sold the goods, but exactly like you're saying, like, they also had this hand-knitted stuff and hand-created stuff and their own things that were like witchy, not Harry Potter, but Harry Potter adjacent, and they were so much cooler and so much more interesting, and I'm all into that. Like, if you're going to take something and be inspired by it, go with it.
You're looking at, what you're looking for is the dark academia aesthetic, which is
yes.
It's like cool. Well, actually, I think it's probably passé now, but maybe a year ago it was really cool. So.
I mean, look, I think we can all enjoy a wizard school aesthetic. That is a fun thing, but I think you guys really did hit the nail on the head of, like, don't incorporate their IP, but feel free to rip it off. I went to this bar with my girlfriend where it was like a cauldron class, and you got wizard robes and stuff. The words Harry Potter were never mentioned, but they were highly alluded to. We just went to Montreal, and I did an escape room that was wizard school themed, and it was a great time. Blatantly ripping off Harry Potter, absolutely no nods to the actual IP. So when it comes to balancing your love of these books that you might have grown up on or found later in life, and the TERFdom that it all exists upon now, rip these people the fuck off.
Can I tell you what I've done with my fandom impulse?
Please do.
So you all remember the pandemic, right?
When was that one?
Now.
Yes.
So, I got more curious about the Fantastic Beasts movies during the pandemic because I was going insane like everybody else was. What I found is that they're so bad it's crazy. I don't know how these movies got made by the people in them. And I mostly got obsessed with the idea of what a fourth one would be like were it to be made. Because the place that the third one leaves off is essentially the beginning of, like, the Third Reich, but from a wizard perspective.
I'm assuming the Jews in this instance are Muggles?
So that's such a complicated issue, because the Jews are Muggles, but also the Jews are Jews, because there's a Jewish wizard who briefly joins up with Grindelwald, because he convinces a bunch of German wizards that they need to protect the Muggles from themselves by showing them a vision of the bombing of Hiroshima. And essentially...
Hold on, I'm trying to parse that.
Why? It makes perfect sense. Later on in the movie, he tries to rig a wizard election by killing the magical deer that decides the election, and then resurrecting it with mind control to pick him to be the president of wizards. These are really good movies, Aaron. So anyway, that's the second one, and then in the third one, we get into Dumbledore and Grindelwald actually fighting each other, and it kind of takes us up to the beginning of the Third Reich, which means that any further movies have to take place in and alongside the Holocaust and World War II. It's totally impossible to avoid this.
Oh, the actual Third Reich.
Yeah. No, from reality.
Not like the wizard Third Reich.
No. And so one interesting implication of the second movie is that wizards would be really interested in stopping the Third Reich, that they're actually very invested in that. Which means that a fourth Fantastic Beasts movie, if made, would be a World War II/Holocaust movie, and there's no way to get around it. So I got really into this idea, and I wrote a spec script or spec treatment, I guess, for the a possible fourth Fantastic Beasts movie. At the end of it, it's revealed that Grindelwald has Hitler under an Imperius curse, which is the mind control curse, so he briefly breaks out of it and then heroically kills himself at the end.
So Hitler is the hero for killing himself.
So this is just the type of thing that I tried really hard to get into the mind of JK Rowling as a screenwriter and what I thought that she might be aiming for, and I tried really hard, and I think that that's one of the things. I'd be happy to send you what I've written. It's really consumed me for a while.
What if they went even smaller and they did something like Schmecky Silverberg's List? Like a Schindler's List type thing, but with goblins.
Well, I have it it has a cold open where Newt Scamander, the autistic zookeeper, liberates a concentration camp where they have a bunch of leprechauns chained to a wall creating Nazi gold from nothing.
I mean, this is pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention the place is called the Cloak and Wand, and it's in Stonington, Connecticut, and it's very charming.
Okay.
So I recommend it.
Well, all right, so to wrap this all up,
Yes.
I feel like the overall question of this is, you could separate the art from the artist, but should you? And it seems like we're all saying, no, don't. Rip them the fuck off and make your own stuff that's better, because even 8 years ago, more than half of our talk, the biggest things you guys really hit while trying to convince me to get into Harry Potter was the fan fiction. Mm-hmm. And people taking these ideas from this notorious TERF and running with them into better places. So how do we liberate these goblins from her terrible clutches?
Go to your local library.
Yeah, I mean, that really is the thing. I think...
Or if you know a millennial, they have the books. Just rob them.
Yeah, just...
The only books it is okay to burn.
Yeah, there are so many other books.
I'm quoting you directly. Eleanor Lewis says, burn these books.
I said rob millennials. What are you talking about?
And logical conclusion.
Same thing, then burn their books.
Yeah.
There's so many other books. There's so many other series. We're talking about, there's a whole generation that has been inspired by the Harry Potter series and created and crafted their own magical series and own magical books. Too much of the space of culture is still taken up by, like you so effectively said, crappy Harry Potter merchandise. Yeah. My local Barnes & Noble is shutting down for a little while. They're having a huge sale. And so I end up going there every day just to be have your prices dropped 10%. So after getting this stuff. so much of the store is taken up with Harry Potter merchandise very specifically, but none of that is going while everything else is being cleared out. And that might be my specific view, but like, you just see so many different other series, so many more inclusive series with different faces that are not all, and mind you, they've had different casting for the play, they are going to have different casting for the HBO show, but like mostly white faces on the screen. People are coming at it in very different ways. They are having more LGBTQ plus inclusive series as well. So you don't even have to search that hard. You literally, like you said, just go to the bookstore and find something new.
Yeah, I think also, in terms of separating the art from the artist, look, my bona fides as a person who likes books by problematic authors run deep. I am so good at liking books by people who suck.
You have 3 Ayn Rand tattoos.
I have 3 Ayn Rand tattoos. I mean, I love Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Like, I love Michael Crichton books. Like, that dude sucked, but he wrote The Andromeda Strain. But neither of those people were the figurehead of, like, the public project to disenfranchise a specific group of people.
Yeah. They were just regular shitty people.
I guess, like, one thing I was thinking about this is, like, so humble brag, I recently read Lolita. Have you read either of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but that's the one where a guy falls in love with a child, right?
That, I mean, broadly speaking, yeah. But, that book is, like, one of the most fucked up books probably that exists, in that it's, like, the literary equivalent of, like, a snuff film. Because part of why it's such a masterpiece is that Humbert is so, like, viscerally realized. He's so perfectly sort of depicted, and you're like, how could you possibly create such a comprehensive monster? Then you read a little bit more about Nabokov, and the answer is, because that's you. That's just you. Like, you're trying to exorcise a demon out of your body and put it in a book and shut it and, like, get it somewhere. And if he was alive, I would say, do not buy this book. This dude's a fucking pedophile. The fact that he's dead is fine. You know, whatever. You can't give him money. It's over. All you can do with that is, like, enjoy this perverse masterpiece that he created. Harry Potter is not a perverse masterpiece. It is a fun series of children's mysteries / light fantasy. And when you bounce the beach ball, you are unfortunately part of the project.
Yeah.
You know? And that is a very different question from separating the art from the artist. It is separating the art from the fundraising / economic machine that it underpins. You know, those are totally different questions.
Yeah. Look, if you're...
Read Lolita.
Nope. If you're looking to invest in a magical world that takes you, that you can at least enjoy without funding the active oppression of a people, there are so many other book series out there for magic. You had talked at length about The Magicians. That, as far as I know...
Lev Grossman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are good. I read those recently.
You can enjoy those without funding anything like that. I myself am still a big fan of the Dresden Files. I'm rereading them now. It's they got even better with time.
Can I do a Don't Mind If I Don't episode for Dresden Files where you're trying to convince me about them?
God, yes! Yes!
Because listening to that, 8 years ago or whatever it was, I was like, this is crazy. Why is he so into the Dresden Files? And you still
go in the other room, there's like 19 of them.
I have all of them.
You have a problem.
No, man.
You got to separate the art from you.
Yeah, we were just talking about, before you got here, we were talking about, I read the first one, but how, like, the best thing about it is that it's just set in, like, regular Chicago.
Yeah.
So it's, like, you have like vampires coexisting with like deep dish pizza and the White Sox, which is like fantastic.
They one of the short stories in the Dresden Files, they explore the Chicago Cubs curse, what caused it, and he has a chance to remove it. And spoiler alert for that short story, he doesn't. He chooses to leave it there, and it's great.
Well, is he a Sox fan? What's the deal?
No, it's this whole talk about how baseball is all about, like, the fandom of baseball is about perseverance. You know your team is going to lose, but you show up anyway, and you cheer for them, because eventually they will. At some point, the curse will break on its own.
And it did.
And it did.
I would recommend the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett, who, if it comes out that Terry Pratchett ever did anything bad in his entire life, I will kill myself.
And on that note, is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap this up?
I mean, I think a good place to end it is what Pedro Pascal, whose sister is trans, said when JK Rowling posted that trans women are considered women, and posted this awful picture of her after a UK Supreme Court decision where she was like, had a cigar and was on a yacht and was like, I love it when a plan comes together. He called it heinous loser behavior.
Yay! Oh my God, if anything ever comes out about Pedro Pascal, we're all doomed. He is the best of us.
Don't stand people.
Agreed.
That's something that I've learned in a big way over the past lifetime, I guess, but like very specifically the past 10 or 15 years, is anytime you're in a place where you're like, oh my God, I love this person, they're people.
Yeah.
And at the very best, they've made a bunch of mistakes in their life, and very worst, they're absolutely vile human beings like JK Rowling, and everything in between. So, sure, something bad might come out about Pedro Pascal, but also, like, we can like what he's doing now.
Look, even Shakira evaded her taxes, all right?
She's a saint.
Her hips do not lie.
Yeah, but her tax returns did. Alex, Eleanor, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to talk to you again in 8 years when it turns out that Jim Butcher, author of the Dresden Files, has a dogfighting ring. Goodbye!